October 2nd, 1996, Wednesday, 3:14 a.m. Brooklyn, Crown Heights. Biggie's apartment. Every light in the building is off except one. His bedroom window. 3rd floor. The city is quiet, quieter than it gets. That specific stillness that only exists in New York between 3 and 4 in the morning, when even the streets have given up for the night. Inside, Biggie is sitting at the small desk in the corner of his bedroom. The one he rarely uses. Usually covered with papers, contracts, demos, fast food bags. But tonight it's cleared. Nothing on it except a yellow legal pad and a pen. A glass of water, half empty. He's been sitting here for 47 minutes, writing, stopping, reading what he wrote, crossing it out, starting again. The pen is moving now. Finally, after 47 minutes of trying to begin, he found the first sentence. And now it's coming. Everything that's been sitting in his chest for 3 weeks. Since the call came in, since the world went sideways, since the thing he knew might happen actually happened, and he wasn't ready. Nobody's ever ready. Tupac Shakur died September 13, 1996. Las Vegas. Shot in a drive-by 6 days earlier. 30 years old. Gone. And the world immediately looked at Biggie, at Bad Boy, at New York, looking for someone to blame, looking for a reason, looking for the narrative that makes the most sense of something that makes no sense at all. And the narrative they chose was the simplest one. East Coast versus West Coast. Biggie versus Tupac. New York killed the king of the West. Biggie didn't kill Tupac. But that's not what the streets believed. Not what the radio said between the lines. Not what the looks in certain rooms communicated when he walked in. He'd been carrying that weight for 3 weeks. The grief that he can't show publicly because it would be misread. The guilt that isn't really guilt but feels like it because he's alive, and Tupac isn't, and somewhere in that equation his name keeps appearing as a variable. The anger at an industry that took 2 friends and turned them into symbols of something they never asked to represent. He writes, longhand, pressing hard enough that the words would be visible on the page below if he tore this one away. Like he needs them to be real. Like he needs the physical act of pressing ink into paper to make what he's feeling solid enough to survive. The letter starts the way all the hardest letters start, with the simplest truth. Pac, I don't know why I'm writing this. You'll never read it, but I need to say it somewhere. He writes for 2 hours, barely stopping, pages filling. His handwriting changes as he goes, controlled and deliberate at the start, looser faster, more urgent as he gets deeper into it. Some words scratched out, replaced, some sentences underlined once, some twice, one crossed out entirely, rewritten 3 lines down almost the same way. Because sometimes you say the true thing and then try to say it better and realize the first way was right. He writes about the beginning. Atlanta, 1993. The Source Awards. Meeting Tupac for the first time. Not on stage. Not in front of cameras. In a back hallway. Both of them early in their careers. Both of them still becoming who they were going to be. The conversation that lasted 4 hours. About music. About where they were from. About what they wanted to build. About what hip-hop could become if the right people treated it right. Biggie writes, you were the most alive person I'd ever met. Like everything inside, you was turned up louder than it was in other people. You made the room feel different just by being in it. I remember thinking, this guy is something else. He writes about the friendship. 1993 into 94. Calls, studio visits, advice exchanged. Tupac was further along then. More records, more momentum. He gave Biggie things to think about controlling your own narrative, about not letting the industry own the story of who you are, about staying dangerous to the status quo. Biggie writes, you taught me things. I don't know if you knew that, but you did. You made me think differently about what this was supposed to be. Then he writes about the turn, the moment the friendship became something else. He doesn't blame one person, doesn't name one incident, because it wasn't one incident. It was accumulation, industry, management, geography, money, politics, jealousy from people around both of them who had reasons to keep them apart. Whispers that became rumors, that became public statements, that became beef that neither of them fully chose and both of them participated in because once you're in it, and backing down has its own costs. He writes, neither of us started this the way people think we did. You know that. I know that. But we let it go somewhere it didn't have to go. And I'm sorry for the parts that were mine. I don't know exactly where mine started and ended, but I know I had parts. Then November 94, Quad Studios. The shooting. Tupac shot 5 times in the lobby. Robbed. Survived. And immediately, before he was out of the hospital, the accusation. That Biggie knew. That bad boy knew. That New York set him up. Biggie writes about that night. About where he was. About finding out. About the sick feeling. Not guilt. Horror. That someone did that to his friend. That someone shot his friend 5 times and left him in a lobby. And then the unbearable part. Being accused of it. Being the suspect in something he had nothing to do with. Watching a friendship he valued turn into a war based on a lie he couldn't disprove to the satisfaction of the people who needed to believe it. He writes, "That night broke something I don't think either of us knew was broken until everything else fell apart. You believed what you believed. I know why you believed it. I even understand it. When you're lying in a hospital after someone tried to kill you, you need someone to blame. You needed it to make sense. And that was the piece that fit the space. I just wish you'd called me. I wish I'd called you. I wish we'd had one conversation without lawyers and managers and the whole machine between us. Just us. Like that hallway in Atlanta. I think it would have been different." He writes about the dices, the records, both directions, the things said on tracks that landed in the world and couldn't be taken back, the specific lines that crossed from competitive to cruel. He doesn't absolve himself. Takes responsibility for the moments his words went further than competition. Writes, "Some of what I said I meant as hip-hop. Some of it I meant as anger. The line between those two things got blurry. I let it get blurry. I shouldn't have." Then he writes about the last year, 1996, the escalation, the death row versus bad boy dimension, becoming something that felt genuinely dangerous. Shows they both played where the energy was wrong. Cities that felt like they were waiting for something to happen. Both of them with more security, more distance, more awareness that the beef had grown beyond them, that other people were invested in it. People who weren't going to be satisfied with records, who needed something real to justify what they committed to. Biggie writes, "I felt it getting out of control. I think you did too. I heard it in your music. I heard something that wasn't just competitive anymore. Something that sounded like you were scared and not letting yourself be scared. I recognized it because I was doing the same thing." September 7th, 96. The Tyson fight. Las Vegas. Biggie wasn't there. Could have been. Had reasons to be. Chose not to. He doesn't write about whether that choice was premonition or coincidence. Just writes that he wasn't there. And 6 days later, Tupac was dead. He writes, "When I found out, I sat in my kitchen for an hour without moving. I don't know what I felt. Everything at once. Grief and guilt and anger and something that doesn't have a name. The grief was for the person I knew in 93. In that hallway. The one who talked to me for 4 hours about what we could build. That's who I was grieving. Not the beef. Not the symbol. Just Pac." He writes about the 3 weeks since. The accusations. The threats from people on the West Coast who needed to direct their grief somewhere. The interviews where he's asked to respond and has no response that would satisfy anyone. The specific loneliness of grieving someone you publicly feuded with. How you can't admit to the grief without complicating the narrative that's already been written. How the industry has already decided what this story is, and your actual feelings don't fit the story, so you keep them private. Keep them in a bedroom at 3 in the morning on a legal pad that nobody will ever read. He writes, "I can't tell the truth publicly. If I say I'm grieving, they'll use it wrong. If I say I'm not, I'm lying. So I say nothing, and the nothing gets heavier every day." He writes about fear, his own, the thing he doesn't say in interviews, doesn't show in public, doesn't let the people around him fully see. Tupac's death made something that was theoretical become concrete. The beef is real. The danger is real. The people who want this to continue to its logical conclusion are real. And the logical conclusion is someone else dying. Biggie writes, "I'm scared, Pac. I know you'd probably laugh at that. Or maybe not. Maybe you'd understand exactly what I mean. I think about it every time I leave the house. Every show. Every public appearance. I run the scenarios. I think about Las Vegas. About the Suburban. About how fast it happened. About how you probably didn't see it coming until it was too late. And I think, that could be me. That's going to be me if this keeps going the way it's going." He writes about his kids. Tiana. The baby Faith is carrying. The children who need a father. He writes, I got a daughter who's going to grow up. I got a son coming. And I'm out here in the middle of something that might take me away from them before they know me, before I know them. And I don't know how to make it stop. I don't know who to make peace with, or how to make peace stick. It's too big now. Bigger than both of us. It was always going to be bigger than both of us once the industry got hold of it. Near the end, he writes something he will cross out and rewrite twice before leaving it. I wish you were alive, so I could tell you this to your face. I wish we could have gotten back to that hallway in Atlanta before it got to where it got. I think we could have. I think if it had been just us, no cameras, no records, no industry, no coast, just Christopher and Tupac, two guys from different places who respected each other, I think we could have fixed it. I think we wanted to. I think you wanted to. The music said so sometimes. Under the anger, I could hear it. The same thing I was feeling. That this wasn't supposed to go here. That we took a wrong turn somewhere and couldn't find our way back. I forgive you for what I thought you did. I hope you forgive me for what I actually did. I'll see you on the other side, wherever that is. Rest, Pac. You were something else. He signs it. Christopher. Not Biggie. Christopher. Folds it. Doesn't put it in an envelope. Just folds it 3 times. Walks to his closet. Opens a shoebox on the top shelf. Nike Air Max. The ones he bought in '92. When he got his first real money. Never wore them. Kept them. Puts the letter inside. Under the right shoe. Pushes the box back to the corner. Goes to bed. Doesn't sleep. 6 months pass. March 9th, 1997. Biggie is killed in Los Angeles. 4 bullets. 1:15 in the morning. The same thing he feared. The same scenario he ran in his head. The Suburban. Las Vegas. The logical conclusion. He never finished the album. Never saw his son born. Never read the letter again. June 17th, 1997. Voletta Wallace is going through Christopher's closet. 3 months since she buried her son. Still in his apartment. Can't bring herself to leave. Can't bring herself to take it apart. Sits in his room sometimes, just to be near the space he occupied. She reaches the top shelf. The Nike box. Pulls it down. Opens it. Sees the letter. Unfolded. Reads the name on the first line. Tupac, and stops breathing for a moment. She reads it standing there in the closet. All 5 pages. Takes her 40 minutes. Sitting on the floor of the closet by the end. Holding the pages carefully like they might dissolve. Crying the specific kind of crying that happens when grief opens a new room you didn't know was there. Her son wrote this. Her Christopher. In the dark at 3 in the morning 6 months before someone killed him. Wrote everything he felt about a man he'd been told was his enemy. And it wasn't hate. It was love and grief and guilt and fear, and the specific pain of a friendship that the world broke. She puts it back in the shoebox, takes the box home. She keeps it private. 19 years. Through the tributes, through the documentaries, through the anniversary specials, through the questions about the beef, about the history, about who did what and why. She keeps it private because it's sacred, because it's Christopher's, because his words in that letter are too honest, too vulnerable, too real to hand over to a world that already decided who he was and what he thought. She's not ready. He's not ready. Some things need time. 2015, March 9th, 18th anniversary of Christopher's death. Voletta is 71 years old. She participates in a documentary, sitting in a chair, talking about her son. The interviewer asks about the Tupac beef, about whether it was real, about what Christopher actually felt. Voletta is quiet for a long moment, then reaches beside her chair, pulls out a shoebox, places it on her lap, opens it, takes out a folded piece of paper. Christopher wrote a letter. After Tupac died, 6 months before they killed my son, he never sent it. He wrote it for himself, but I want people to hear one part. She unfolds it carefully, finds the paragraph, and reads. Neither of us started this the way people think we did. You know that. I know that. But we let it go somewhere it didn't have to go. And I'm sorry for the parts that were mine. The studio is silent. The interviewer is silent. Voletta refolds the letter, puts it back in the box. The rest is private. That's his. I just wanted people to know. My son grieved Tupac. My son took responsibility. My son was not what the story says he was. The documentary releases. That scene travels everywhere. Every platform. Every hip-hop publication. Every mainstream outlet. Biggie wrote unsent letter to Tupac after his death. The world sees Voletta, sees the shoebox. Hears the one paragraph and understands something it never understood before. The beef was real, and it was also something more complicated than beef. Two people who were friends, who became symbols, who paid the price that symbols pay when the world decides their story is more important than their humanity. Suge Knight is asked about it in an interview. Doesn't comment directly. Death Row producers say nothing publicly, but people who knew both of them privately say the same thing. They wanted to fix it. Both of them. Everyone around them made it impossible. J. Cole Records, a tribute, references the letter. Two kings used as pawns in other men's games. Kendrick Lamar quotes the letter at a concert. One line, the apology paragraph, lets it sit in the air, doesn't add to it. Some things are complete. Voletta keeps the rest private. All 5 pages except the one paragraph. Keeps it in the Nike shoebox on her shelf. Christopher's letter to his friend. The one that was never sent. The one that says everything the world spent years arguing about. The one that sat under a shoe for 6 months while Christopher tried to stay alive and couldn't. Still there. Still in her possession. Still sacred. 2024. 27 years after the letter was written. 27 years after Biggie sat at his desk at 3 in the morning and tried to say the unsayable. One paragraph is public. The rest is private. Still folded the same way Christopher folded it. Still in the same box. The right shoe on top of it. Where he put it. Where it stayed. Where it will stay. Some conversations are private, even between the dead.